There are cities that rise, then fade into dust. But what if one city defied the very concept of vanishing? For centuries, historians have argued about Rome, its rise, its power, and its supposed collapse. But what if the story we've been told is completely wrong? What if Rome never truly disappeared, but instead became something far more powerful than just an empire? In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of time to reveal the true, unbelievable legacy of the Eternal City and why its heartbeat still echoes across our world today. Legend says Rome began with two abandoned brothers, Romulus and Remus, suckled by a she-wolf, growing up to found a city on 7 hills. Whether you believe in wolves or not, what's undeniable is that around 753 BC, a small cluster of huts along the Tiber River began to buzz with an ambition the world had never witnessed. It was a humble start, hardly a blip on the map compared to the grand empires of the East. Yet these early Romans were practical, tough, and relentlessly focused on building something that lasted. They weren't just thinking about tomorrow, they were thinking about forever. From this unassuming beginning, Rome started to stretch its muscles. They didn't conquer by brute force alone, although they had plenty of that. They conquered with an almost clinical precision, a structured approach that blended military might with a genius for organization. Imagine a world where most roads were muddy tracks, barely wide enough for a cart. Then, suddenly, Rome started laying down meticulously paved highways, straight as an arrow, stretching for hundreds, then thousands of miles. These wasn't just paths. They were arteries pumping life, goods, and soldiers across vast distances, connecting disparate regions in a way no one had before. These roads, some of which you can still walk on today, were a visible manifestation of Roman power and their forward-thinking engineering. And it wasn't just roads. The architecture defied imagination. Think about the Colosseum, for example. When you see it today, even in ruins, it's still breathtaking. But back then, it was more than just a stadium for gladiatorial games. It was a thunderous declaration. Imagine walking into that arena, seeing its sheer scale, feeling the roar of 50,000 voices. It wasn't merely entertainment. It was a statement of dominance, a symbol of Rome's ability to marshal immense resources, intricate design, and incredible labor to create something monumental. It said, "We are here and we are mighty." It showcased Roman innovation, from the complex system of tunnels and trapdoors beneath the arena floor, to the ingenious awnings that could shelter the entire crowd from the sun. These structures were built to inspire awe, command respect, and demonstrate an unparalleled level of civil engineering. What set Rome apart was its systematic approach. Other empires might rise and fall on the whims of a single powerful ruler, or crumble under internal strife. But Rome built systems. They developed laws that were so sophisticated, they still form the bedrock of many modern legal systems today. They had a structured military strategy that was unmatched, not just in training and discipline, but in its logistical brilliance. They had engineers who could divert rivers, build aqueducts to carry fresh water to bustling cities, and construct public baths that were centers of social life. They understood that to truly conquer, you needed to do more than just defeat an army. You needed to integrate, to build, to structure, and to offer something that made new territories want to be part of the Roman way of life. This wasn't chaos. This was calculated, enduring power. At its absolute peak, the Roman Empire was an astonishing sight. It wasn't just a powerful nation. It was a sprawling, interconnected web of territories, stretching from the misty shores of Britain, across the sun-baked plains of Europe, all the way to the ancient lands of the Middle East. If you stood in Rome and looked west, you could imagine its reach extending to the Atlantic. Look east and it stretched to the Euphrates River. It was a truly global superpower, unlike anything the world had ever seen, or would see again for a very long time. But this wasn't just about grabbing land. This was a profound transformation. When Rome moved in, things changed, and not always for the worse. They didn't just conquer, they assimilated, they innovated, and they left an indelible mark. Take Roman law, for instance. Instead of just imposing arbitrary rules, they introduced a framework of justice, order, and governance. Cities that were once tribal settlements began to adopt Roman legal principles, creating a more stable and predictable society. You could travel across this vast empire, And while local customs might vary, the underlying principles of justice, property, and civic duty were often consistent. This system brought a level of organization that was revolutionary, leading to greater peace and prosperity in many regions. It was the blueprint for how a vast, diverse population could be governed effectively. And the infrastructure. Imagine walking through a desert, then seeing these colossal stone arches, stretching for miles, carrying fresh water to a bustling Roman city. Aqueducts weren't just feats of engineering. They were lifelines. They brought clean water to millions, supporting massive populations and enabling the growth of grand urban centers like Rome itself, which at its height had over 1 million inhabitants. These aqueducts, many of which still stand, sometimes even carrying water today, demonstrated a profound understanding of hydraulics and a commitment to public welfare that was centuries ahead of its time. They weren't just building for show, they were building for function, for life, and for the long haul. Then there's language. Think about Latin. It wasn't just the language of scholars, it was the language of law, administration, and eventually the church. As Rome expanded, Latin spread with it, mixing with local dialects, evolving, and eventually giving birth to what we now call the Romance languages: Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian. That's right. Even today, when someone speaks French, they're speaking a direct descendant of the language Rome spoke. This wasn't just a linguistic shift. It was a cultural fusion that profoundly shaped the identity of entire continents. Latin provided a common tongue, a way for people across vast distances to communicate, trade, and share ideas, knitting the empire together, not just with roads, but with words. Power had a new definition in Rome. It wasn't just about who had the biggest army or the most gold. It was about shaping civilizations, laying down legal frameworks, building incredible infrastructure, and influencing the very way people thought and spoke. Rome didn't just hold power, it defined it, creating a standard of imperial might and cultural influence that subsequent empires would spend centuries trying to emulate. This was a truly golden age, a period where Rome's reach seemed limitless, and its innovations seemed to pave the way for all future human progress. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting. For generations, history books have told us about 476 AD, the year the Western Roman Empire collapsed. We're taught about barbarians at the gates, crumbling institutions, and the glorious empire fading into oblivion. It's a dramatic tale, full of struggle and ultimate defeat. But what if that conventional narrative is just too simple? What if the fall of Rome is one of history's greatest misinterpretations? Because when you look closer, the idea that Rome simply died in 476 AD starts to unravel. It's like saying a tree dies when it sheds its leaves in winter. The leaves are gone, sure, but the roots are still deep, and the tree often returns stronger in spring. The truth is, Rome did not die. It evolved, it transformed. It fractured, certainly, and its political center shifted, but its essence, its core ideas, simply mutated and continued to influence the world in profound ways. Let's talk about law again. That robust system of Roman law, the one based on fairness, rights, and responsibilities, didn't vanish into thin air. It was preserved, adapted, and eventually became the foundation for legal systems across Europe and beyond. When you see a judge presiding over a courtroom today, or hear about innocent until proven guilty, you're witnessing the direct descendants of Roman jurisprudence. Modern civil law systems in places like France, Germany, and even Louisiana in the United States owe a huge debt to the Roman legal codes compiled by emperors like Justinian, centuries after 476 AD. Rome's ideas about justice and governance were simply too good, too effective to ever truly disappear. They lived on in libraries, in universities, and eventually in the fabric of new nations. And architecture? Just look around you. Many capital cities worldwide, from Washington, D.C. to London, boast buildings with grand columns, domes, and arches. Where do you think that style came from? It's a direct echo of Roman architecture. The Pantheon's dome, the Colosseum's arches, the intricate mosaics, these weren't just ancient relics. They became blueprints. The Renaissance, centuries later, looked back to Rome for inspiration, sparking a revival of classical forms that still influence how we design our most important public buildings. Rome's aesthetic principles of grandeur, symmetry, and civic monumentality didn't vanish. They became a timeless language of power and aspiration. Even Roman philosophy, a rich tapestry of Stoicism, Epicureanism, and Neoplatonism, profoundly shaped Western thought. Concepts of duty, virtue, reason, and the nature of man, explored by Roman thinkers like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, continue to resonate through the Dark Ages and beyond, influencing Christian theology, Enlightenment philosophers, and even modern ethical discussions. The very way we think about leadership, citizenship, and the good life has been, in part, molded by these ancient Roman ideas. So, when we talk about the fall of Rome, we should really be talking about its metamorphosis. The Western Empire, as a unified political entity, did indeed break apart. But its most powerful contributions, its laws, its engineering, its language, its philosophy, its art, didn't crumble. They dispersed, they changed forms, they influenced emerging cultures and kingdoms, and they continued to shape the intellectual and physical landscape of the world. It was a fall not into nothingness, but into countless new beginnings. Rome didn't die, it fragmented and seeded the future. Walk through Rome today, and you quickly realize it's not just a city, it's a living museum, a layered chronicle of human history. You can stand in the shadow of the ancient Colosseum, then turn a corner and find yourself on a bustling street lined with designer shops and modern cafes. History doesn't just sit in a glass case here, it breathes. It's in the worn cobblestones beneath your feet, the crumbling walls of a forgotten temple beside a vibrant market, the subtle curve of a street that follows an ancient Roman path. Ancient ruins don't stand in isolation. They are woven into the very fabric of modern life. There's a constant dialogue between the past and the present. You can see families picnicking near the Roman Forum, teenagers chatting on ancient steps, and Vespas zipping past arches that have stood for 2 millennia. It's an experience that blurs the lines between then and now. To walk through Rome is not merely tourism, it is a profound form of time travel. You're not just looking at history, you're stepping into it, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on you in the most beautiful, tangible way. And what does this incredible, enduring city teach us? It teaches us an eternal truth. True power is not found in brute force or temporary dominance. True power is legacy. It's about building ideas, systems, and structures that outlive the empires that created them. It's about creating something so fundamentally useful, so profoundly impactful, that even when the political machinery crumbles, the ideas continue to thrive, adapt, and shape the future. Rome's legacy isn't just in its ruins. It's in our laws, our languages, our architecture, and our very way of thinking about the world. It's the ultimate proof that an idea once forged with strength and vision can truly be immortal. If you found this journey through Rome's incredible endurance fascinating, make sure to check out our next video right here.